what happens typically on a sales call or a sales conversation or the whole sales process, it's almost like a tug of war, exact opposite of tug of war in some ways. Basically, you're trying to push your product or your offering to the customer, and customer to some extent is trying to push back that, hey, don't push it to me. They're defensive. So it's almost like both sides are trying to push back to the other side a little bit. And what I've come to realize is that the exact opposite also works exactly the same way. Instead of pushing, let's say if you pull and say, hey, I don't think I want to give it to you, the other party also feels that, hey, no, maybe I want to take it. So they start wanting it and justifying why you should give it to them. It's more of psychology, right? And we all have experienced this in some way or the other, where if you tell someone, hey, you can't have this, and then the person would want to have a little bit more, versus if you are saying that, hey, please take this, I want you to have it, rather give me your money against it. And the person will be more defensive because they're seeing someone who's going to push this thing down their throat or into their hands. So we all have to, at a very macro level, we have to switch from both sides pushing to we have to make to both sides pulling. That's what we have to do. But how do we do that? I think so. Before I get to a 3-step process that I have in my head of how to do it, there are 2 sort of broader things that we have to, almost like a homework that we have to do at our end before this can become applicable or might make sense also. One, I think, is that, it's about our mindset. Most of us, or our default, is basically a very short-term mindset. We think of short-term benefits versus long-term benefits. We think of that, let me get this one sale done, versus truly thinking that, hey, what is the right thing to do here? And can I build a long-term relationship with this person? And if they're not buying today, maybe they'll come back and buy tomorrow. I'm here for the long term. I'm here for 10, 20 years in this career, or generally in my career, in my professional life itself. And you will come across these people again and again. But we all default to a short-term mindset, getting this one sale done, just let me make some compromises this month. Next month onwards, I'll take care of this thing. So this short-term mindset is something we have to overcome. That's one sort of a little bit of homework to say, okay, I'll not be desperate to make any sale. Because if you are desperate and if you are short-term thinker, then you would be pushing. And I can assure you that the more you push, the more the other side is going to push back. That's one. Second thing, which is also required to be able to make this happen, is also this can't apply to a product or an offering that you don't believe truly in. You can't just pick a random product and say, let me go and sell this stuff to someone. You really have to believe in what you're selling. And generally, the problem is not that certain products are good or offerings are good or bad. It's that you have to, almost everything could be good for some people and would be bad for some other people. So you really have the homework that you have to do is whatever product you have to try to find those right TGs, the right groups to whom you can take this to, where you strongly believe in your heart that this product does make sense. It does add value to them. So if you genuinely, that's the homework you have to do, picking up the right product or offering and trying to go after the right audience. Again, if you don't do this, definitely can't work. People are not fool enough to start pitching themselves to a product, even if it's not the right product for them. Those are almost like 2 prerequisites: having a longer term mindset and strongly having a belief where this product is the right product for this TG. Or at least you believe in the product offering. You believe that this can be a good for someone. Now, so almost there's like a 3 or 4 steps, let's say, in my head that I think I was just trying to think meta from how I do things at our sales process and say, how can it be applicable to someone else? So first thing is basically, in any sales conversation in the whole process, basically you have to lower the defense of the other side. Generally, it's sales conversation are set up in a way where the prospect is more defensive. They know you're going to push products to them and they start defending already, which kind of, which is a bad start for a process like this one. So you have to find a way to lower the defense, and the defense happens. So we all become defensive when we come across someone who's pushy, when we come across any salesperson. You go to a car showroom or any other kind of place where you're trying to go and look for something, you come across a salesman who you can sense already before they even start talking, or from the kind of clothes they're wearing, the kind of the way they're talking, the kind of way they're approaching you, you would have a sense that he's going to be pushy. And when you see someone on the other side who's going to be pushy, you start becoming more defensive. So you have to make sure that from the very first instance where you engage with someone or start conversation with someone, you have to come across as completely non-pushy, rather the opposite of that. I should feel that, hey, this guy is not going to push his product or offering to me at all. That's when I lower my defense. I get more comfortable with that. Now, of course, some bit of this is that you have to, in your mindset, in your way, in your approach, you have to become less pushy. But at the same time, there are some tactical things that you can sometimes do. You have to make sure that before his defense gets up, I'm not even talking about a sales call where you're talking to people in person. It could be even when you send out a LinkedIn message. If I sense your message, if I receive your message, if I sense that in your message, this is looking like someone who's going to sell to me, I become defensive right from that point itself. So you have to avoid, from that point itself, you have to avoid coming across as pushy. You can find your own words, basically, in which you say certain things, in which the others are feeling that, hey, this guy is not going to push. For example, in many of my conversations, in the initial part of my conversation, I end up saying something like, where basically we set up the context and we say, hey, why don't you give me a sense of what your business is and why did you reach out to us? And then maybe I can give you an introduction about us. And maybe then, there are typically a couple of barriers of why people don't work with us, and I can maybe share those. And so either I say something like that, or I might say something like that, let's go through a quick round of introduction, and then maybe we can evaluate if our offering kind of makes sense for your business or not. So some of these kind of statements, when I put it across, I'm coming across someone who's not pushy. I'm coming across someone who's going to really be on the same side of the table, sit with them and evaluate whether this makes sense for them, versus trying to give them a sense that let's go through the round of introduction and then I'll tell you 5 things about our product, why it makes sense for you. In some other words, whatever way, you get the sense. So you really have to find what works for you, something feels natural for you, something that you truly believe in. Saying something like this, where you're saying that, okay, let's do something, and then we want to basically evaluate whether this is even the right fit for you. You're showing that I'm here to help you make this decision versus I'm here to sell this product to you. So as soon as you do that, I have sensed that people's defense gets lower, which is also very important for the second step. So first step was this lowering their defense. The second step is basically about truly evaluating their needs. Now, because they've lowered their defense, you have an opportunity to truly understand what their needs are, where they're coming from. So you can ask questions and truly, genuinely try to understand whether this product fits into their scheme of things or not. And ask them questions, try to understand whatever you need to know, versus looking for opportunities where you can fit in your product. Try to genuinely understand and ask them questions. And because their defense is lower, they generally end up sharing far more information. And once you have a sense, now the third is the tough part, where basically you have to be ready to do the right thing to build trust. And the building trust is very important in the long term again. If you genuinely believe, or let's say, if you think of all your prospects as a very broad level, you can, bucket them into 3 categories. So think of it as concentric circles. So the innermost circle is, let's say, something where you think it's a good fit. It's a great fit actually for them. The right outside of that is basically a circle, or this is third circle. So completely outside is something which completely doesn't fit. You have clear indication that there is no good fit between this product and this customer. The middle part is the tricky part. It's a gray zone where it could be a good fit, it could be a bad fit. It's the ROI is lower for them. It's not as great as for the inner circle, but it is not as bad as for the outer circle, right? Now, if you think of these 3 parts, first of all, let's take care of the innermost and the outermost one, right? Outermost is the toughest but clearest, where it's not a good fit. You have to be ready to say no. That's one of the toughest things for most of the people that I come across, and if I share something like this, is that most people don't have the ability to say no to a potential client. They keep hoping that if I keep pushing, maybe one will convert. Even if it's not a good fit, and there are hundreds I come across whom it's not a good fit for, and even if I convert one of them, it's a good sale done, right? So there's nothing lost here. But really, if you have a long-term mindset, you have lost it. You might have sold it. You can be pretty sure that this guy's not going to be happy about the outcome at some point in time. He's not going to trust you the next time. Versus now, here's a great opportunity. You figure out that most 99 anyways are not going to convert. only you're going to lose out to this one guy, right? Out of these 100 people, all you have to do is say no to these people and say, hey, I don't think this is a good fit. And here is why I don't think it's a good fit. And you push back. You tell them, I don't think you should buy, and here is why you should not buy. And most of the times, these people, for sure, all of these people will start trusting you a lot more. They will start discussing with you in a very open way and asking you, then what should we do? Is this a good way? And you might end up suggesting something else, which is something that you don't offer. You may suggest something else and say, I think if I would be in your position, this is what I would do. This is the company I will go to. This is a service provider I'll go to. This is the kind of thing I'll do, or I'll do this in-house. Many of the times when I come across an early stage company, so we work with typically companies who are raising a Series A. So a lot of early stage companies also come out to reach out to us. That's a very clear signal for me. Already I know that we don't have to sell to this guy. This guy is not going to be happy. We can't make a good presentation for him. And in most cases, I also know that once I share my pricing with this guy, he doesn't have the money to pay. So instead of me sharing my pricing and then this guy saying no, it is better that I am the one saying no. I tell them, hey, I don't think you should work with us for multiple reasons, including our pricing. And then I'll share the pricing. I will say that, hey, I don't think you should work with us. Also, our pricing might not work for you. We charge this much. And he's already knows that, but instead of he or she saying that I can't, this pricing is too expensive for us. And most of the time people won't accept on the call. They'll just say, hey, let us think about it and go back and do this. They're not having an open conversation with that at that time. They're just saying that, okay, if I tell this person that, this price is too expensive, he's going to continue pushing back in some way or the other. So in most of these cases, in this third step, what you have to really do is understand what is the concern that they have in their head. And you have to repeat that concern before they even start saying anything like that. You have to say that, I'm not sure if there's enough ROI for you. I'm not sure if this is a good value for you. I'm not sure if this is the right time for you guys. I'm not sure if our product can serve all your needs. It can only serve probably 50% of the needs. When you say these things, and this is the concern that they have in their head, they start becoming very open with you. I've experienced this time and again. So try doing that. It's the easiest one for the people who you think it's a clear no fit at all. Tell them that, hey, this is not a good fit. You should not buy this. So one benefit, you're not losing much on anything because anything is not going to convert. Two is they start trusting you, start sharing more information with you. And maybe in the process, you figure out there's a good fit. And three, they might push back and say that, want to now pull and say that, hey, no, I think we are a good fit. They will negate your reasons and say that, hey, I don't think what you're saying is right. Here is how we are a good fit for this. Here is how I think our needs are slightly different from what I said earlier to you. And here is how it fits well. Fourth, lastly, the short benefit is that whether the sale happens or not at this point in time, they're going to trust you a lot more. And they're going to maybe tell other people about it. They're going to come back to you. Maybe they bump into you again. And that point of time, the defense will be already lower and they'll be like, what do you think we should do? Aap batao kya kare? So this is for the outmost circle where it's not a good fit at all. For the innermost circle, it's easy, a little tricky. It's a good fit. The only problem is if you start pushing now also, the person might just push back also. You have to say, I think it's, something on this. You have to again come across not pushy. You have to showcase that, hey, why I think it's a good fit. You showcase that, but don't be pushy at all. Let the other person push. So if you have been able to really establish and evaluate and showcase that this is a good fit and not being pushy, more often than not, these people will start saying, hey, I think we can work it like this. But if you sense there are any concerns, it's never binary actually anyways, right? So there will be always some concerns. Whatever concerns they have in their head, you should repeat those concerns, be vocal about those concerns. And that's when they will start pushing a little bit. If they think that, sometimes if again, pricing is a concern to some extent, you say, I see that it can be a great fit for you, but I'm not sure if at this point in time, your organization should spend this much money on this product, right? If that's a concern in their head, they will start saying, no, you're right, but maybe we can figure it out. I do see a good fit, right? So only if you pull back, they're going to pull the product towards them also. This is for the innermost circle, right? And the middle circle, the gray zone, is the most trickiest one, basically. That's where basically, there is not enough ROI and it can fall either ways. But again, I think the tactics are the same. You still have to not be pushy, try to tell them, evaluate the same thing. But I would say pull back the product as much as possible and say, I do see some bit of it, but I don't think it may be right. Be vocal about all their concerns, whatever they're feeling in their head, try to say out those concerns to them, and they will start open up and they'll start pulling back the product towards them. Good enough idea to not use push strategy, right? If you stay, you have really evaluated this. When you have asked questions and you have evaluated this, the other side is also not dumb. So they also have figured out if you have really asked the right questions, they have also seen that, hey, these are just the right questions and I can make sense of this, makes sense for me. And I've also seen the more questions you ask, just going a little tangential from here, basically, the more questions you ask to your prospect versus trying to share information, the more they want this. So I'll give you one instance of how it happens in our case. Anybody who sends out an email to us, reaching out to us, asking about our services, most of the people say that, hey, can we get on a call to discuss this? And our first response is, we send out a list of 3 or 4 questions to them. We ask them, hey, can you tell us, for example, when did you guys start this company? Can you tell us that do you already have a presentation in place? Can you tell us that how much money are you looking to raise? And finally, can you tell us what is the challenge you are facing in making a deck in-house? Why did you feel the need to reach out to somebody like us? In most cases, the answer is not very high quality. So one, it definitely helps us filter. Our conversion rates without this form will be very low, and we'll end up having a lot of time spent on the conversations. Our conversion rates after this form are much higher because people feel that, hey, these guys are not desperate and this is something I want more. They want more of this, right? As soon as, even without knowing the quality, even without knowing anything, just want more because we're not giving it to them. We're not pushing it towards them. And because if I ask a few questions to you and you answer those questions, and then I'm saying something that, hey, so I think it makes sense. I never have to say this. I never have to say that, hey, it makes sense for you. The conversation automatically goes in a direction where we both have come to realize it does make sense, right? Because then they will start asking questions. So I would ask questions, you would answer those questions. Then I'll share more details about my offering, right? If I think it's a good fit, I'm just going to share more details. Okay, so I'm going to say that, hey, so I've asked a question, you answered the question. I'm going to say, okay, let me walk you through a few presentations and let me share it with you. And I'll walk you through the presentation and then I'll say that, hey, do you have any questions? And most of the time, I'm just asking for your concerns. By the time you have built some trust, you have seen that there is good value. I've asked you some important questions already. Generally, you don't have to do anything from this point onwards. They are the ones who will keep going further into this and asking for that this makes sense for them also. So I don't think you have to do it much. Just have to avoid pushing again. It's a temptation that we all have to say, let me close it. Let me push it and ask them, hey, when can we expect the next steps? Hey, when should I expect to hear back from you? Again, sometimes soft of this push works okay, fine. It creates a little bit of urgency. But generally, I've seen that most of the times you can't move them too much. They are where they are. They will move when they want to move. In our case, we have gone a little extreme where we don't even do a follow-up. If somebody doesn't reach out, we most of the times, 99% cases, we'll not even follow up. Thought process is that if they want to, they will reach out. We have told them everything we wanted to. We had a conversation with them. There is no value, or again, if I do 100 follow-ups, maybe one will convert. I'm happy to let go that one, but I don't spoil the experience of the other 99 by doing that. We have gone a little extreme. I wouldn't suggest that, maybe. Depends upon the situation. So I would say nothing doing post that. Just keep going further, understanding the fit. They would, as you see a fit, they would also be able to see that there is a good fit and they'll move ahead into the sale. Just one small thing on the, you having no sales experience. I had no sales experience too before starting Decruiser. Only this 2-3 years with Socrates, that company I mentioned. Before that, I had not done no sales. I used to get shit scared of doing sales actually. Just think idea of sales was scary for me. I think you can stand out completely in this world by just being truthful, because you can talk to most people and you realize most people are just pretending or lying or manipulating in some way or the other, to different degrees. And if you can be someone who come across as somebody I can really trust and is truthful, you just stand out so much more, and I can trust you so much more. I can say, hey, but do you think we should do this? I've seen this huge delta as soon as I tell people that maybe this is not a good fit. People open up so much that they want to talk about that. hey, I think this may be, and what do you suggest about that? What do you suggest about that? They really want to take my guidance on this. I'm on the same side of the table versus being on the opposite side. So it's actually you can use it as an advantage not having sales experience actually. I don't think it's going wrong. It's basically this is at the core of it. If you think this is not a good fit, you have to say no. And it doesn't mean the product is bad. Again, similar to the idle scores thing that we're talking about, you don't have to say something is good or bad. You're saying it is good if you are this, it is bad if you are this. So for you, I think it is bad for sure. But there are other people for whom it is really good. And here is the definition of those people. So basically, people are you have to create those buckets for people and say where is the good value, where is the bad value. And you have to let people fit into the bucket and select themselves and say, I fit into one of these buckets. You have to establish these buckets in a way where everybody can fit in somewhere. It's like a full set, right? Complete set. And you have to create segments in a way where people can say, okay, I fit in this bucket. And we have already established that this bucket, not enough value. This bucket, great value, right? So it is not going wrong, I would say. That sale you shouldn't do anyways. If I would be in your place, I wouldn't try to do that sale anyways if there's not good enough value. Targets, see, if sales is synonymous, targets are also synonymous with, to some extent, desperation. All right. Targets will make you desperate to sell. So your primary goal can be only one. Your primary goal, if the primary goal is to sell X number of times versus making sure that every customer who comes to me find the right solution, then this strategy may not be the best strategy, right? You have to somehow find a way to not have the primary goal of saying, I have to sell this many times, but primary goal of saying, I'll make sure that every customer who comes to me gets the best solution and builds trust with me because I'm in here for the long term. Now, still you can meet targets, maybe, or at least theoretically, by putting in more effort and reaching out to more people. But it really comes down to what feels more aligned to your insight, right? I think I am more at peace. I sleep well at night if I know that I have not sold something wrong to someone to some extent. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. It's not big virtuous about anything. I'm just saying that if meeting your targets makes you more happier and allows you to sleep well at night, you definitely should keep that as a primary focus. But if really helping someone and finding them only selling the right thing makes you happier, then you should find a way to align people around you to do that too. So in the long term, it can definitely work because in the competitive product, selection also becomes tricky. How do you find something is also difficult. See, if you think about it, in our daily routine also, there are many things that are, let's say, competitive or commodity and exactly same. So 10 shops selling the same stuff, normal department store also. But for some reason, you have chosen one department store over the other one. You have chosen one subsidy over the other one. So there are many very commoditized things that we buy in the market. And we have still, at some point, we made a decision that we are going to buy from this guy and not from the other guy. Because there was a certain amount of comfort or trust that you had with this guy, or you felt, maybe, I'm just assuming that may be the case, where you felt that this guy never cheats and never tries to push things to me, or something that you like about this guy, right? In the commoditized market, in the competitive market, typically this other softer aspects become even more important in the long term. People start trusting you more and saying that, hey, I am happy to pay this 10% premium, maybe, because I really know that this guy, for this relationship, maybe, right? I think those kind of things can come handy. But sure, my situation is not that. This may not completely be, I think you would be the best judge actually to see if this works. But in my heart, I believe that this kind of works well for almost all kind of categories. Watch your language when you're following up, because following up is really you having a conversation versus the other person having a conversation. Sometimes you can be more tactical. Let's say when you're following up, you can maybe share, it's basically, you can see what is the problem also actually. Sometimes the problem is of top of the mind awareness. Let's say he's forgotten about you or your services. So maybe if you find an article that could be value adding for this person, you can send that, hey, I came across this article and I thought maybe you will find this of value. Just send it out to him or her. And more often than not, these people will say thank you and they might come back if they are already well primed to buy your product. they would say that, hey, also let's have the conversation we were having. So that's one way you can do. Other is that, in your conversation, leave some open thread, which you can go back to close later. For example, you can, if you have left out something about, let's say like in our work, what happens a lot of times, we give out a timeline and say that, hey, we can start a new project only in, let's say, 4 weeks time, and then we can work on this. And let's say if the client hasn't responded back, sometimes I would go back and say that, hey, just wanted to let you know that the timeline on our end has changed because some projects have moved faster. So we can now start a new project in 2 weeks, just in case it works for you. Just wanted to let you know. So something like this, a softer follow-up where you can just reach out and not be pushy. And or also what I do sometimes is I would ask them and say that, hey, I just want to drop a note and check if this is still on your radar, because I have, don't want to push you, but there was someone I was talking to and they want to move fast. But because I've made a commitment to you already, I want to make sure that there's no issue like that you come back later and I'm not able to serve you. So just want to make sure that are we still on or not on? So you can find your own language, something that seems right for you. But sometimes this is what I would do sometimes. I do follow sometimes. So it's not like there's no scope for follow. I think there is enough scope for following up. You should follow. You just have to be tactical and smart enough about how you articulate these things.